Did scientists find that whale sounds are an actual language? We'll tell you on this episode.
We get some rum and beer, expensive port in a reindeer, so you know we're gonna party till
Welcome
tomorrow.
back, Marine Conservation Happy Hour crew. This is Dr. Scarlett Smash, and I'm here with my co-host, Dr. Craken. And we're going to talk about sperm whales. It's sperm whales that the scientists have been studying for a while. And it's interesting because, yes, we all want to talk to other animals, other species, right?
Like Dr.
Kraken?
Doolittle.
Oh, gosh, yes.
Want to talk to the animals.
Absolutely. I mean, it's obvious. We all know that animals have their own language, but do they have structured language? That's what they're looking at, the complexity of language and phonetic alphabets. You know what I mean? Like, do they really? Well, this is an interesting topic that a few scientists have been looking at the combination and the structure and the codas, the sequence of clicks. Yeah, yes. Exactly. Codas. And checking to see if these sperm whales have vocalizations.
Now, we've known for a long time that dolphins are able to understand really, really complex linguistic concepts. Like they can take symbols and translate them into words, and they can string together sentences and understand syntax. But with sperm whales, a lot of the recordings, they hear them do these clicks, like click, 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 click. And it was kind of assumed that they just have this like really simple collection of sounds that they produce, kind of like your cat goes meow. So, what does meow mean?
Yeah, but I mean, like, if we actually recorded each meow, maybe one meow has just like a distinct little higher note that we can't detect in our ears. You know what I mean?
This is kind of what the researchers have done. They've sort of done a deep dive into the different types of clicks that these animals are doing and sort of
rhythm, tempo, rubato, and ornamentation features. Ornamentation. Oh, is that what it would be? I don't really know, actually, but it's, this is more unique than what we have, correct?
Basically, these researchers, so Sharma et al., who just produced this paper that came out in Nature Communications, and we'll have to get some of the researchers onto the episode.
Anyone knows the researchers, send them my way ASAP. We need to get them on.
Well, one of the researchers, Roger Payne, sadly he passed away recently, but he gave me one of my first whale jobs, being a researcher for one of his books back in the day. So I've known Roger for many, many years. God, 40 years nearly. Oh my goodness, yes. Anyway, so to use the cat analogy.
No, I want to use the bee analogy because you know about bees and I don't know anything about bee communication. And in this paper, they say as a conclusion that it's very similar to honeybees.
Well, honeybees. Now, I loved watching honeybees doing their communication dance. So they kind of communicate with like interpretive dance. And at the university I went to, they actually had in the museum this honeybee hive. So you can actually see the bees coming and do this communication dance. And what they would do, they would come in and they would do this little sort of waggly dance that would give information to the other bees on the direction and the distance that good sources of pollen was. So they will basically come in and do this sort of interpretive dance.
And that would be their language.
There is a lot of food here. Wow. And according to how much they wiggle and the direction that they wiggle in will give you the direction, the distance, how much food was available. And they had slightly different waggle dances, which is really pretty darn cool.
That is interesting. So that's basically, instead of doing the interpretive dancing in their language, like distance is this wiggle of my butt, and it's over in that direction, left, which is wiggling my side, that would be the different types of clicks, rhythms, and rubato. I don't know what that is, but there would be any of those kind of codas from a sperm whale.
Well, if you think about it, our language is split up into a series of different sounds. So English has a number of different sounds which we combine together to make words. So what they're doing is they're sort of lumping these groups of clicks together, and it suggests that there's enough complexity that they could string them together in order to make more complicated
sentences.
Communication. Well, we don't know. We don't know about sentences yet. We don't know about sentences, but certainly there's potential to have more complicated language.
That's interesting. That's interesting. We really do need to get someone on the show because a lot of their figures are incredibly interesting, however, very complex. And I don't do anything in this field, so I really don't know what I'm looking at. So please, if someone knows any of the scientists, have them come and see me.
Now, a lot of the media has been reporting this as we found the alphabet of sperm whales and scientists decoded the language of whales. Well, I mean, that's exaggerating it a bit. So
that's news, right?
Yeah.
If no one's going to exaggerate it, then how is anyone going to look at it? You know what I mean?
So it's like they've
sensationalized.
Yes, it's sensationalized. But what the scientists have done have found that there's a lot more structure in the cores, and there are different sort of groups of cores. And so there are multiple different components that could be strung together. I mean, you said sentences, so maybe they could be put together as sentences, or at the very least, things like big food or long swim or things like that. So we just don't know how complicated this language could be.
But it could be. It could be a phonic. Oh God, phonic.
Is that phonic. Yeah,
phonic. It could be a whale phonic alphabet.
Well, if you think about it, like Mandarin or Cantonese, they have a small number of sounds, and then according to how you do the sounds, whether it goes up at the end or down at the end or up and down or level, each of these sort of sounds can have different meanings, and you put it together and you end up producing a complicated language. So, there are some potential building blocks in here. So they've got 18 different rhythms, 5 different tempos, 2 different types of extra clicks, which they call the ornaments. Maybe this extra click is like an exclamation mark, or
that'd be really
a question mark.
Yeah.
So in Cantonese, for example, you could go blah, 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 ma at the end, which is like question mark. It turns something from a statement into a question.
Yeah. Well, I'm really looking forward to trying to get one of the scientists on the show because they can go through the different types of codas and what they saw depending on the different kinds of behaviors. So that would be incredibly magical to go over those details. Thank you so much for being here, Dr. Craken. And for everyone that's listening, I hope you enjoyed this episode. And thank you so much for being part of the Marine Conservation Happy Hour crew.
This is the Marine Conservation Happy Hour podcast. This podcast is produced and edited by Absolutely Smashing Events and Consulting. The music in this episode is by Jolly Shore Leave. If you're interested in sponsoring an episode or you would like us to show up for a special event, email us at info@absolutelysmashingllc.com.